you click this video? That tells me something about you. That means that you are interested in a camper van as well. Or at least you've seen the Vanlife videos and thought you to yourself, that's amazing, I want to get out, I want to just go whenever I want, drive wherever I want to go, and enjoy the freedom that comes with a van. Yet you stumbled into a problem of choice. There's just too many options and you don't know which one to go for. If that is you, then this video is for you. Let's roll the intro. So let's get one thing out of the way first. If you are still undecisive about whether you want a caravan or a motorhome, I'm highly going to recommend a video from Andrew, which I will link down below and put a card up there somewhere, so that he really breaks it down on what are the advantages, disadvantages of traveling with a caravan versus traveling with a camper van or a motorhome. So let's assume for a second that you have decided that you want a camper van or a motorhome. Then we'll break it down into 3 steps on how to choose your camper van. Number 1, determine your budget. Number 2, determine what you need, your minimum requirements. And number 3, determine what you want, what kind of options, what kind of specs, what do you like, and how does it fit also. So let's start with number 1. Determine your budget. Nobody likes to do that because everyone always wants more budget than they have. However, you have to be realistic in this, and everything is possible. And I do believe that for every budget there is a camper van. Now, how do you determine your budget? Well, you can go and see how much is in the bank and put that as a maximum. You can go and see how much you can lend from the bank and see how much you are able to pay monthly. That's a way of looking at it. But then there's also the aspect of how much do I want to spend on it? Because it's one thing to determine how much money you actually have to throw at it. And there's another thing to how much is it worth to me. You have to keep in mind that you use these camper vans several times a year for sure, especially if you're out every weekend. That's nice, but still, it is not the majority of your time, and it can be a lot of money depending on which one you choose. So there's a good balance that you need to find. So for me personally, I had a number in mind where I said, okay, I want to spend this much and I don't want to go over that much. So I highly recommend doing that. Now, there is a little caveat that you have to take care of, because you can look at the prices, the retail prices or second-hand prices of all these vans, but there are some costs that come that you need to do before you can actually use the van. So there's the insurance, there's the road tax if that's applicable in your country. There is some maintenance maybe that needs to be done, especially if it's not a new one. There is all of the camping gear you need, pots, pans, table, chairs. Looking back on it, that actually was also quite a lot of money if you count everything, especially if you want to buy a new one and you're looking at, okay, this van start at, or this model costs this much. There's always a list of options, and some of these options are necessary and they are quite expensive, but you want to have a little wiggle room to go for certain options, because in the end you will regret not getting some of these options later on. It's like, oh, why didn't I spend that little bit more? That would have been so convenient. So make sure that you keep that in mind. That's one of the reasons why I had a an amount for the van in mind, and also an upper limit, like, okay, this gives me a little room for some extras that I might want or need. In step 2, we're gonna determine our base requirements, our minimum requirements for our van. So let's start with an easy requirement. Do you need a bathroom? Yes or no? Why do you want a bathroom? Well, obviously, if you're not on a campsite, or you just are on a campsite but don't want to be bothered going to the facilities, you always have a toilet, you always have a shower, or just a sink. Minimal, you have a sink, but the shower can be very, very comfortable, and you always have that available. Why would you maybe not want a shower? For the simple reasons that it just takes up a lot of space that you don't use all of the time. So you could argue that without the bathroom, you would have room for other stuff. Okay, so that was the easy one. So the second one is also quite straightforward. How many people do you want to have in your van while driving? Because in Europe, you need to have a seat with a seat belt for each person that is in the van while driving. So for us, the Adria has 4. We have 2 kids, me and my wife. That makes 4. Quite simple. Most motorhomes, most camper vans have 4 seats. It becomes more tricky when you need 5, 6, 7, heaven forbid 8. Then you will find that there's far less options for those, and that the van becomes very, very, very much bigger than your standard camper van. But it is possible. It is possible. So number 3 is, how large can the van be? You need to store it somewhere. You need to park it somewhere. You need to drive it everywhere. So it needs to be something that you're comfortable to drive with and that it fits. So for us, ours couldn't be longer than 6.5 meters. It is 636 or 640, and I personally preferred the panel van conversion instead of a semi-integral, for the simple reason that I thought it was easier to drive because of the smaller width. So that is number 3. Then number 4, and that's maybe a little bit more nuanced, is how many beds do you need? Now, all camper vans have at least 2 beds. That's a given. Either they're fixed or they can be lowered from the ceiling, but you have 2 beds. It is beyond those 2 that there are many questions. Do you want beds that are permanently there? It's an option. Do you want beds that you can lower? That is easily set up. Just lower the bed from the ceiling, and you have the second and the fourth bed. The third and the fourth bed. Or do you want? Are you okay with having to make a bed out of the dining area whenever you need it? To give it some context, the way we looked at it is, we want to be able to sleep comfortably with two people in the van. And if needed, we can sleep with 4 people in the van with some modifications in the living area. So why did we choose it? Because we figured that the kids wouldn't want to sleep in the van together with their mom and dad once they get a little bit older. They want their privacy, we want our privacy, so they will want to sleep in their own tents, and that's that. Of course, if you get on a campsite, it's pouring rain, or you're not able to find a campsite and have to just park somewhere, then we still have the option to sleep together in the van, just in case of emergency. So we covered the budget, we covered the minimum requirements. So we have a few layouts that we can choose from, and that means that we can look at certain brands that provide these kind of layouts. Now, combined with those layouts from the minimum requirements, and of course your budget, that gives you an option of what kind of brands do I want to look at, and which ones I can definitely not afford. For example, for me, Westfalia. I like those vans. I think they're really good looking, but they're way more expensive than Adria, for example. Of course, there's still the option of buying a second-hand motorhome, and then it usually is a little bit easier because you only have the budget and the layout, and then you just have to find some that are available. And usually there are not that many options available for a certain layout. Some layouts are more popular than others, and of course the ones that are very popular, there aren't many options available because usually they're off the market quite fast, and the other way around, those that you can find easily are usually the ones that there is not much demand for in the first place. So buying a second-hand motorhome is definitely a good option, especially if you're on a budget. Just know that there are a lot of second-hand motorhomes of people that bought it and then just had it for 1 or 2 years, so they're practically brand new, but you will pay significantly less than if you would have bought it yourself from the dealer. Let's for a minute assume that you do want to buy a new one. Then we're gonna talk about spec level and options, because this can make a huge difference in your budget. And there, of course, it's up to you to determine what you absolutely want. For me personally, one of the things that I absolutely didn't like with most standard vans is the cockpit and all of the options there. The reason being is that I'm used to driving a car with all kinds of creature comfort. Like, I have an automatic gearbox, I have parking sensors all the way around, reversing camera, I even have lane assist and front assist, whatever that means, adaptive cruise control, infotainment system, the whole 9 yards. And in your typical Fiat van, you have none of that. You don't even get an automatic air conditioning, things that we've had in cars for forever. Not even that. One of the options that I even took was a leather steering wheel. Seriously, a leather steering wheel. If you buy anything, any decent car, it will have a leather steering wheel. Maybe this is just me being posh about it. I don't know, but I needed to have a leather steering wheel, and it was an option, and I was pissed off that it was an option. So that's why you need to take into account those extra options. I prefer to go with a less expensive brand, but being able to spec it to the max, if you will. We do have some other options specifically to the Adria part. One is the solar panel, the awning, and the bigger fridge, and the dual batteries, in the dual leisure batteries. That's it. Those are the 4 that we had. Plain and simple. Oh no, that's not true. We got the electric heater, which I spoke of in the last video as well. Definitely recommend that one. So basically, this last part is very personal, and in the end, you are just fine-tuning the options and the choice that you're gonna make to the budget. Okay, so we covered all 3 points: the budget, the minimum requirements, and all of the options. So basically, the budget, what you need, what you want. Now, all of those 3 are interconnected with one another, because if you change one, the other will be influenced. For example, the budget. The budget, it can change as well, because you think, okay, this is my maximum budget, but it could change. Because, give you an example, in the beginning I was also thinking about buying a California. Now, a California is, the one I spec'd out was at least 20, I think it was about 20,000 more than the one that we bought. Now, you could say, well, that's over budget. Yes, that's true. The reasoning was that if I were to buy a California, I would sell my car and I would have some budget from the car, because the California drives like a more or less like a normal car, so I would use it for daily use as well, and not just only to go out on a camping trip. I had basically 2 options I wanted to go for. Either I had the van, like we have now, or this like 6.5 meters semi-integral that has a drop-down bed in the middle. The nice thing about that one is that it has a very spacious living room. It has a huge kitchen and an even bigger bathroom shower, so it would have been very comfortable. But it didn't have a fixed bed, so every time that you wanted to go to sleep, you have to lower the bed, and everyone has to go to sleep. You can't use the seating area at the moment that you want to go to bed. Another disadvantage is that it becomes a lot wider and a lot larger or taller than the van would be, and that was a drawback as well. With regards to how they interact, if we would have gone for the one with the drop down bed, those cost significantly more than a panel van conversion. So for the same budget, I could go up a class, if you will, because Adria is a very well-known brand, but it's not the cheapest. I could go quality-wise up because I went down space-wise, if that makes any sense. That is why these three options are interconnected. And if you change one, it will influence the other. And you will go around in circles several times before you end up with a decision on which van that you want. But I think it's a very good process to go through so that you get the right van for what you need and what you want. Because both are important and both cannot be ignored. All right. Now, assuming that you made your choice, there is a hidden step 4 here. And this is something that I will recommend, even though I absolutely did not do it. And that is to rent a van. If you have the option to go and rent a van, I know it is quite expensive, especially during the busy season, so during the summer when everyone's on holiday. But it gives you the chance to try it out, and not just the specific van that you want or something that is similar to what you want, but it also gives you the ability to experience a camper van trip, not just for you, but for your whole family if you have a whole family, and see if it is something that you like to do. It always looks very promising on Instagram and YouTube, but that doesn't mean it's for you. It is, after all, a very small space where you have to live sometimes with multiple people for several days, if not weeks. And so try it for sure. And of course, if you get the opportunity to try different vans for different trips, then you have a better understanding on which are my requirements and which are the things that I do want. Because you might find that you thought you needed something, and then after going on a trip for a few times, saying that's absolutely not necessary. Let's use that money for something else. So to summarize, determine your budget, determine what you need, determine what you want, and tweak all three until you have a choice which you are comfortable with. Then step 4, rent if possible, and then buy your camper van and go make an adventure. I hope this video was useful. I hope it was a good guide on making your choice. Please, if you have made your choice, let me know down below in the comments. I'm really interested into seeing which vans that you guys bought and why. It's always good to get someone else's perspective. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more of my videos, subscribe. And then I guess I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.